This is a demonstration for a rolled hem. The purpose of a hem is to finish the edges of an item. This is the bottom of a skirt. All sleeves and necklines and bottoms of pants or dresses even all have some form of hem on the bottom. I'm going to teach you how to do a rolled hem. This hem is about 1 inch wide, and they have serged the edge and then folded it up, and their hem is about 1 inch in width. This is a demonstration for a rolled hem. You are going to cut out one rectangle of your rolled hem and press it so it is nice and crisp. The first thing you're going to do on the long side is measure about 1/2 inch, and you want to crease about 1/2 inch up. You can kind of not tell with this fabric, but I have a wrong side facing up. And I'm just going to kind of crease this with my fingers. If it's easy for you to put a couple pins in here, you can do that to hold that fold in place. But you're simply going to place this in your machine and sew as close as possible to the fold that you have created. And you will backstitch. You will just do a regular plain stitch, just backstitch 2 or 3 times. And try to get as close to that fold as possible without going off on that fold. And once you get to the end, you're going to backstitch. You will trim your threads. And then you will get some embroidery scissors. You're going to take those embroidery scissors and you're going to cut off the seam allowance. The seam allowance is what is the edge of the fabric over to the stitch that you made. So we have, you know, about 1/2 inch, maybe a little less of a seam allowance. Embroidery scissors are smaller, and so you can kind of get in a little bit closer to that stitch that you just made. But you are just going to cut off that seam allowance very carefully with the embroidery scissors. Get as close to the stitch as you can. I have already done that with this sample. The next thing you are going to do is fold up that seam, and then you're going to go and press that in with the iron to hold it in place. Again, if you need to put some pins here to hold this down, I have already pressed mine, but it pops up a little bit. If you want to add a couple of pins in, you can. But then the very last step of a rolled hem is, with your wrong side of your fabric up, you are going to stitch close to the edge. And I have a little seam allowance to work with here. Again, depending on how long you want your garment to be, you can fold this up a little more or a little less. But you do want to fold up until you see this stitch that you've already made. You do not want that stitch to show. And then now I am sewing as close to this fold, the fold on the left side here, not the fold of the bottom of my hem, because I want to sew this flap down, basically, is what I'm doing. Once you get to the end, you will backstitch, and then you can trim your threads. And then from the right of your fabric, you will see that straight line down at the bottom of your seam sample. And this would signify something like at the bottom of a skirt or pants. This is called a rolled hem with a stitch.